After losing her son in a tragic accident, she uncovers an incredible secret about her husband. Sarah couldn't breathe. The sharp pain in her chest felt like a vice, squeezing tighter as she stood in the middle of her beloved bakery, Flour Faith, the aroma of freshly baked cookies and bread swirling around her but offering no comfort. Just a week ago, her teenage son, Jake, was alive, his laughter echoing off the walls, sharing stories of dreams and soccer games. Now, all she had left were shadows in the flour dust that seemed to whip around like ghosts, whispering reminders of the joy they used to share. In those aching days that followed, the neighborhood banded together. Casseroles piled up like a mountain on her kitchen counter. Neighbors sauntered in, arms laden with flowers and sympathies, filling her shop with the soft hum of concern and compassion. They brought her their best, but in the depths of her heart, each smile only deepened her loneliness. She felt as if she were encased in glass, able to hear and see, but never truly touch the world around her again. The very laughter that once buoyed her spirits now felt like salt on her raw wounds. Deep into her grief, Sarah began cleaning through Jake's things, hoping to find something, anything that would anchor her to his memory. She rummaged through his bedroom, and then, under his bed, she found it, a stack of letters, yellowed and fragile. With trembling hands, she opened one, revealing Jake's shaky handwriting. The letters painted a picture of a boy who adored his mother and cherished their time baking chocolate chip cookies, but as she read on, the words twisted themselves into something unrecognizable, dark. They spoke of her late husband, a man who everyone thought was a hero, but these letters hinted at something far more sinister, a tangled web of secrets involving shady dealings, and a life lived just outside the light. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fury and betrayal washed over Sarah as these revelations settled in her mind, pulling her into a vortex of confusion and anger. Her husband, the man she had loved fiercely and built a life with, was not the man she thought he was. Mixing resentment with her grief, she stumbled through memories, and they felt soured now, the sweetness gone. She could feel her heart hardening like the dough that she once kneaded with love under the warmth of an autumn sun. With each letter, she forged a path toward understanding the truth, a quest that would take her deep into the heart of Elmwood. Neighbors who had once smiled and offered kind words now bore the weight of community ties to her husband's hidden life, and as she prepared for the town hall meeting that would address the brewing scandal, she held on to one of Jake's letters. It was time to confront those friends who had become strangers, to demand justice for the betrayals that had kept her family in shadows for far too long. As she took a deep breath, preparing herself to stand among familiar faces and speak her truth, Sarah felt the weight of Jake's memory behind her. Could redemption blossom amidst this tangled legacy, or would the past swallow her whole? As Sarah stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment above the bakery, a wave of anguish crashed over her like a tidal wave, pulling her under. The person staring back at her felt foreign, eyes rimmed with dark circles, hair unkempt. A mere shadow of the vibrant woman she used to be, the one who adored baking and entertaining with warmth and laughter. Today, however, the reflection was full of desperation and a thirst for truth that burned brighter than her grief. The letters lay scattered across the dining table, each one more disturbing than the last. They spoke of meetings held late at night, hushed tones in the shadows, and money exchanged behind closed doors. Jake had written about his worries for both of them, sensing the danger and deceit circling like vultures around their family. Sarah's heart broke anew. Did her husband truly lead a double life, one that threatened the very essence of their family? Her stomach knotted as she recalled the numerous times she defended him to her friends, praising his goodness every time they spoke. The town adored him, always smiling, always volunteering. Little did they know how the man they admired hid his secrets as deftly as an artist hides his mistakes under layers of paint. With a heavy heart, she reminded herself a true artist reveals their soul, not conceals it. "Are you ready for this, Sarah?" she whispered to herself. Her own reflection seemed to answer with a grim nod of determination. The town hall meeting would start soon, and she needed to gather her strength. Sarah stepped out of her apartment, gripping the cool metal railing of the stairs that led down to the bakery. Each step felt like a descent into a new reality, one that would rip apart the comfortable existence she had known. The air felt electric with tension as she pushed open the door, entering Flower Faith, where memories of joyful days still lingered, along with the scent of cinnamon and sugar. With her heart racing, Sarah arranged the pastries on the display, forcing herself to focus on the familiar rhythm of the kitchen. Kneading dough helped ease her unease, and she imagined each fold a piece of her shattered heart finding its way back together. But she knew it was false comfort. There were bigger issues waiting. As the townsfolk began trickling into the bakery, Sarah could see the familiar faces but felt the distance growing between them. Whispers floated in the air, eyes darted away as if afraid to meet hers. The tension thickened like the dough in her hands. "Sarah," called out Mrs. Blake, the local teacher, her voice soft with concern. "We're all so sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Sarah managed, forcing a smile, but inside she was screaming. Did they know? Did they suspect? The room began to buzz with conversation, laughter, and comments about community events. Yet Sarah felt like a ghost, hovering on the edges, not engaging but observing. Each laughter felt like daggers, twisting her insides painfully. It was time to stand up. As the clock neared the hour for the meeting, Sarah took a deep breath and summoned her courage. She clutched Jake's letters like a lifeline, ready to confront the fractures in her world. They might still see her as the baker, the mother, but soon they would know her as a force, a woman refusing to be crushed by silence any longer. Then she saw him, Mark, her husband's closest friend, standing just outside the door with an uneasy expression. Her heart sank. He had been an integral part of their lives, and now everything felt heavily weighted with implications. His presence felt like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. In that moment, a question formed in Sarah's heart: was he complicit in the secrets, or could he be an ally in her quest for truth? "Mark," she said, voice steady yet tinged with uncertainty. "We need to talk." And as she stepped forward, she braced herself for whatever revelations the next moments might hold. Mark hesitated at the threshold, uncertainty clouding his face. It was a moment that felt suspended in time. Sarah could feel the weight of the unspoken words hanging heavy between them. "Can we talk inside?" she asked, her voice firmer this time. He nodded, stepping in, but the air between them crackled with tension. Once the door closed, the comforting warmth of the bakery felt miles away. Sarah tried to find her focus as the familiar scent of fresh bread swirled around them. It was like a bittersweet hug. "I found something, some letters," she said, her heart pounding. Mark's brow furrowed, and Sarah could see the realization wash over him. "Letters?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "What kind of letters?" "Letters from Jake," she replied, trying her best to gauge his reaction. "They tell a story, Mark, a story I never knew." The words felt like shards of glass lodged in her throat. Mark crossed his arms, abilities as a confidant suddenly stripped away. "You shouldn't be looking into it, Sarah. Trust me, it's not worth it." But that only ignited her fire. "How can you say that? He's my husband. I deserve to know what he was involved in, what he was hiding from us." Mark's gaze dropped to the floor, avoidance painting his expression. "Sometimes, ignorance is bliss. You can't change what's been done. Or can I?" She countered, allowing the anger to fill the gap between them. "I won't just stand back while everything crumbles. This isn't about ignorance, it's about the truth." The tension in the room shifted, and she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, perhaps sympathy or fear. She couldn't tell. Mark took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You don't know what you're dealing with. There are things that go deeper than our understanding, things I wish I could explain." "Then explain them," she demanded, desperation creeping into her tone. "Help me understand why my husband's life was cloaked in deception. Was he involved in something dangerous? Did you know? Her words hung in the air like an urgent plea, but Mark remained silent, the weight of their shared history between them. Memories flashed through Sarah's mind: family gatherings, laughter shared over dinner, the love she thought they all shared. It felt like a dam breaking inside her. A sudden resolution surged through Sarah. She reached out, desperate to grasp hold of anything that felt solid in this sea of doubt. I don't want to believe Jake was someone he wasn't. I need your help to find the truth, even if it's ugly. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them, and then Mark finally broke. Okay, he said quietly, a mixture of hesitance and determination in his voice. Let us figure this out together. But Sarah, you need to be prepared for what you might uncover. It could change everything. His words were both comforting and terrifying. As she nodded, they both understood that this was just the beginning. Together, they would peel back the layers of Jake's life. Would they find the loving husband she thought she knew, or a man layered with secrets? As they stood there, Sarah's heart raced with both dread and anticipation. She felt as if she was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between the known and the unknown. And just as their resolve began to solidify, the door swung open, and Mrs. Blake stepped in, the joy from earlier replaced with a frown. Sarah, I need to talk to you. The look on her face silenced the room, and Sarah felt an icy grip of fear clutch at her heart. What now? The world felt like it was closing in, and she realized the truths buried below the surface were ready to explode. What more could be lurking in the shadows? Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. She slipped it out to glance at the message, and her breath caught. The sender was unknown, but the content read, I know what happened. Meet me tonight. All she could think was, who could it be? And what did they know? The candle flickered on the table, its warm light casting shadows that danced across the room. Sarah stood frozen, staring at the screen of her phone, heart pounding. The words swirled in her mind, I know what happened. What exactly did this stranger know? Did they hold more pieces to the puzzle? Mark shifted beside her, concern etched on his face. What does it say? She hesitated, her eyes flickering from the phone to his worried expression. There was something about sharing this news with him that felt daunting. I don't know. It's from someone I don't recognize. Mark reached over, lightly touching her hand. You should respond. Whoever it is might have information that could help us. With a shaky breath, Sarah typed a quick message, who are you? What do you know? Her thumb hovered over the send button as a wave of nausea washed over her. What if this person was playing games, taunting her with cryptic knowledge? Before she could overthink it, she hit send and looked up at Mark. What if it's a trap? What if Sarah, listen, he interrupted, his voice steady. We can't live in fear. You're looking for answers. Remember that. The gravity in his tone resonated within her. Uncertainty fluttered in her chest. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. Not now. Mrs. Blake cleared her throat, bringing Sarah back to the moment. You need to hear me out, Sarah. It's important. What is it? Sarah asked, trying her best to mask the anxiety simmering beneath her calm exterior. The older woman fidgeted with her hands, her eyes darting nervously to Mark before settling back on Sarah. I overheard something the other day about Jake. There are rumors. Rumors that he was involved in something dangerous. Sarah's heart sank. What kind of rumors? They're saying, well, that he had connections to some people you wouldn't want to tangle with. I didn't want to believe it, but Mrs. Blake hesitated, her gaze heavy with concern. I think you should be careful, dear. Mark exchanged a glance with Sarah, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. This is getting serious, Sarah. We need to be prepared for anything. As the weight of Mrs. Blake's words settled in, Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. What did Jake get himself entangled in? Why hadn't she noticed the signs? Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, breaking through the tension in the air. Another message had arrived. She practically tore the phone from her pocket to look at it, heart racing. The message read, "Meet me at the old rail yard at 10. It's important." "Who is it?" Mark asked urgently, eyes narrowing. "I don't know. But I think you should go," he interrupted. "If they really know something, you need to hear it." "By myself?" "You'll have me on the phone the whole time," he insisted. "I'll stay vigilant. Just let me know when you're there." The idea of meeting this unknown person sent a shiver down her spine. Yet, deep inside, she knew this might be the lead she desperately needed. Ignoring the plummet of dread in her stomach, she squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, imagining Jake, his laughter, his sweet smile, the way he always made her feel safe. "Okay," she whispered finally, a mix of fear and resolve settling over her. "I'll go." As they prepared to leave, a realization dawned on Sarah. She was crossing a line into the unknown, a journey that would likely lead to answers, perhaps shocking ones. And as she stepped out into the cool evening air, determination overcame fear. The old rail yard lay ahead, dark and intimidating, filled with whispers of secrets long buried. She had to know the truth about Jake. But as she glanced at Mark's worried face in the dim light, she couldn't shake the feeling that this path could lead them to places they weren't prepared to face. Who was waiting for her? And would she be ready for what she might uncover? The air was thick with anticipation as Sarah approached the old rail yard. The fading light painted the ground in shadows, and her breath turned into a cloud in the chilly air. Just as she stepped onto the gravel, Mark's voice crackled through her phone, grounding her, reassuring her. "I'm right here, Sarah. Remember to stay alert." Clenching her jaw, she nodded, though he couldn't see her. The potential danger loomed heavy, but the need for answers pushed her forward. Every crunch of gravel underfoot echoed in her ears, and adrenaline coursed through her veins. She had to know what this stranger wanted. As she reached the entrance, the old metal structures loomed overhead like sentinels lost in time. They witnessed everything, yet remained silent. Glancing around, Sarah noticed shadows dance along the walls. Were they just her mind playing tricks, or was someone really there? "Are you there?" she asked softly into the phone, wishing for the comforts of daylight that felt miles away. "Just keep moving. You've got this," Mark urged, his confidence a balm to her anxiety. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. Her heart raced, and she instinctively tucked her hair behind her ear. The figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar shape. It was the man she had last seen on the night Jake had died, his face twisted with a mix of hesitation and urgency. "Sarah," he called out, his voice low and hesitant. "Who are you?" She fired back, trying to mask her uncertainty. I know what happened to Jake." The words hung in the air, electrifying and ominous. "I don't need your games," she replied, her voice trembling. "You were supposed to be his friend." "I was. But there are things you don't understand. He got mixed up in something." The man struggled with the last word, as if it burned his tongue. "What do you mean mixed up? If you know something, just tell me." Each word dripped with frustration, but she needed to know she had to. He leaned in closer, eyes darting around to ensure no one else was near. He was in deep with some bad people. They were after him, Sarah. After both of you. Tearful rage bubbled within her. After us? Why didn't he come to me? Why didn't he tell me? The reality of what he was saying choked her words, and a part of her wanted to turn away, to dismiss the man as a coward lying through his teeth. "Because he wanted to protect you," the stranger insisted, his expression earnest. "You were in danger too. He was planning to leave town without telling you. I wanted to help him, to warn him, but what?" Sarah felt her pulse quicken, each beat a drum announcing the chaos within her heart. "His last message to me was about you. He had something important to tell you." Before the man's voice dropped off, the weight of the unspoken hanging between them. Sarah took a shaky breath, trying to piece together the fragments of his confession. What did he want to tell me? Please. Suddenly, a loud noise jolted them both from their conversation, a metal clanging echoing through the darkness. Stay close, Mark's voice cracked through the phone, his own unease palpable over the line. Listen, I can't stay here, the man said urgently. If they find out I'm talking to you, we could both be in serious danger. Danger? What are you talking about? Her heart seemed to drop at the implications. I know who they are. Just trust me, I can help you. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. Sarah froze, staring at the screen. The name chilling her to the core. Jake was calling. Sarah. What is going on? Mark's worried voice was drowning in static. A chill ran through her as she glanced back at the stranger, whose face was pale and desperate. Something was terribly wrong. Who had been in control of her life without her knowledge? Don't answer it, the stranger urged. Whatever it is, it's not what you think. Sarah's heart raced as she weighed her options. She felt cornered, poised at the edge of a cliff with nowhere to go. Did she take the call and risk revealing herself? Or did she trust an unknown hand that had fed her nothing but unsettling truths? With a gut-wrenching decision to make, the phone vibrated in her palm, marking the start of a confrontation she never imagined she would have to face. What would she discover if she answered? Sarah's fingers hovered over the screen, torn between the warmth of a familiar voice and the chill of potential danger. She could feel the stranger's anxious energy radiating off him, a signal that time was slipping away. Her grip tightened around the phone, as if holding it could prevent everything from unraveling. Don't answer it, he insisted, urgency lining each syllable. Jake might not be who you think he is. If you care about him, you'll listen to me. Her heart sank. What are you talking about? His words felt like knives, cutting deeper with every question they raised. Look, he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially. The truth is complicated. But you need to understand that Jake wasn't just a regular guy. He got mixed up in something much darker than you realize. Those people, he gestured broadly, his arms sweeping into the shadows surrounding them, they're dangerous. And if they think I'm talking to you, it could cost us both everything. Mark's voice crackled again, pulling her focus back to the phone. Sarah. Please, talk to me. The fear in his tone sent a shiver down her spine. She could hear the desperation, the belief that he was her only tether to safety in a world turned tumultuous. What do I do? She whispered, more to herself than to the stranger. Trust me. Don't answer. We need to leave, now. A bead of sweat trickled down the stranger's brow when a distant sound echoed, heavy footsteps approaching from the back of the rail yard. Her instincts screamed at her. Panic surged. She couldn't just walk away from this, from the unanswered questions that suffocated her. But the reality of Jake's potential betrayal was a heavy anchor holding her back. Please, Sarah, just one more second, Mark urged, pushing through the crackling line. I need you to hear me. They're coming. The stranger hissed, sending her adrenaline into overdrive. With shaky breath, Sarah's heart raced as she glanced back toward the darkness where the sound originated. Shadows shifted, and there it was again, the unmistakable clattering of someone, or something, moving fast. Time slipped like sand through her fingers. Who are they? She asked the stranger, desperation creeping into her tone. People you don't want to meet. Those who think they own everything and everyone, he replied, his voice tight. And they kill to protect their interests. The tension was thick, nearly unbearable. Part of her was screaming to answer the incoming call, to try to connect the dots with Mark. But the stranger stepped closer, his eyes locked on her, pleading. You need to decide. Now. Call the police, and they will know you've been here. Or you can trust me to keep you safe and find out what really happened to Jake. In that moment, Sarah realized she no longer had the luxury of time. It wasn't just about her anymore, it was about Jake, about the truth. She dropped the phone, letting it land untouched against the gravel, grounding herself for the path forward. As the footsteps grew louder, she felt the weight of her decision. "All right, let us go." "But you tell me everything," she said, her voice steadying, determination coursing through her veins. Without waiting for a response, she turned toward the shadows, hand outstretched, ready for whatever came next. The air tasted electric, filled with the promise of revelations and the weight of coming danger. Was she finally on her way to unearthing the truth about Jake? Or had she just made a deal with someone who could lead her deeper into the darkness? A moment later, before the figure could move, a voice shouted in the distance, slicing through the tension like a knife, "Stop right there." The chilling command froze Sarah in place. With her heart in her throat, she turned back to the shadows, realizing they were not alone anymore. Who was coming for her, and would she even make it out alive to tell her side of the story? The harsh command echoed through the rail yard, hitting Sarah like a cold splash of water. She turned slowly, her instincts firing wildly. The looming shadows resolved into a figure, silhouetted against the dim lights of the yard. The voice wasn't just any voice. It carried an authority that sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through her veins. "Move away from him," the newcomer yelled, accentuating every word with a menacing intensity. She felt the stranger beside her stiffen, his defenses heightening. He shifted slightly, a subtle movement that made her realize he was prepared to pounce or protect. In that heartbeat, all thoughts of Jake faded to the background. Survival came rushing to the forefront. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice shaking, yet fierce. The stranger to her right subtly urged her back, but she held her ground. "That's not important right now," the voice continued, stepping forward, silhouetted features sharpening into clarity. The face was rugged, brimming with determination, but there was something underlying, a hint of desperation that mirrored her own. "I said, move!" He shouted again, glancing nervously at the shadows from where Sarah had just emerged. In an instant, the sound of footsteps escalated to a sprint, breaking the moment. More figures were arriving, their intentions unclear but their presence overwhelming. Panic seized her thoughts, unraveling her composure. The stranger's hand tightened around her wrist, a lifeline pulling her back into the present. "Listen to me," he whispered urgently, partially shielding her from the new threat. "We have to go. Now." Before she could respond, the other man gestured with urgency, making a split-second decision to close the gap rather than give ground. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. They're dangerous, and they won't stop until they get what they want." With adrenaline flooding her system, memories of Jake flickered in her mind. The laughter, the tenderness, and the moments they had shared. Was he really entangled in this? The idea teetered dangerously at the edge of her thoughts, but she couldn't dwell on that now. The approaching voices grew louder, angrier. She could feel the tension snap like a wire stretched too tight. "They're coming!" Sarah gasped, her voice catching in her throat as the realization hit her. She wasn't just a bystander. She was part of this nightmare now. "Trust me," the stranger implored, his grip on her hand fierce and reassuring. Against all her instincts, she did. With no time left to ponder the choices she faced, Sarah turned on her heel, allowing the stranger to guide her deeper into the shadows. The sounds of pursuit reverberated around them like thunder, each step pounding against the ground felt like a countdown to an uncertain fate. They darted between rusted cars, heart pounding with the rhythm of their flight. The darkness enveloped them, the only solace in the chilling reality of their situation. The stranger glanced at her, his expression a mixture of relief and urgency. "We need to find a way out, but I can't protect you if you don't keep up." "Where are we going?" she panted, trying to match his pace, her thoughts swirling with questions. "Somewhere safe," he promised, though the tremor in his voice betrayed the uncertainty of his words. Sarah's mind raced. Safe? From whom? And what exactly was she escaping? Before she could voice any of her fears, a loud crack pierced the air, the sound of metal against metal. The chase was not just a chase anymore. She felt it in her bones, they were not running alone. "Run!" was all the stranger had time to say before the cacophony erupted all around them. Caught between a world she thought she knew and shadows of danger, Sarah felt regret and resolve battling within her. Choices made in this breathless flight would change everything. In the fleeting chance to escape, would they unravel the truth that linked her life to the man she loved? Or would their pursuit lead them to a darker, inevitable end? As they rounded a fading corner of the yard, Sarah spotted a faint light in the distance. Hope flickered like a candle before a storm, but could it guide them to safety, or lead them right into a trap laid by those who meant them harm? The light grew brighter as they sprinted towards it, the flicker guiding them like a lighthouse in a stormy sea. But Sarah's heart warred with hope and dread. Was it safety they were approaching, or a facade dressed to ensnare them further in danger? Just a little farther. The stranger urged, pulling her along, his grip still firm on her wrist. She could see now that it came from a small door half hidden beneath the shadow of a towering pile of scrap metal. The very act of reaching out to touch it felt like an admission, the kind that unlocked fear and bravery in equal measure. "Do you have a plan?" she shouted between breaths, urgency fueling her words as panic lingered just beyond the curtain of adrenaline. "Trust me," he repeated, looking back over his shoulder. The worry in his eyes made her question if he was as confident as he sounded, or if he, too, was just trying to outrun the darkness. They reached the door, and without a second thought, he shoved it open. The inside smelled of oil and old wood, and suddenly, it felt more like a hiding place than a sanctuary. "In," he commanded, ushering her through the narrow opening before ducking in behind her. The moment the door shut, an eerie silence cloaked them, leaving only the frantic echoes of their own breathing. The dim light flickered above them like a heartbeat, and Sarah's mind raced as she leaned against the cool metal of the wall, catching her breath, desperately wrapping her head around the reality of her situation. "What now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible against the backdrop of her racing heart. "Now we wait," he responded, the tension still palpable. As they settled into an almost static quiet, she took a moment to study the stranger. His face was chiseled but worn, a hint of a shadow across his jawline that spoke of sleepless nights or unending worries. Despite the raw desperation, there was a warm intensity in his eyes that drew her in, as if he carried the weight of 1,000 secrets he longed to share. "I'm Sarah," she finally managed, feeling it a necessity to inject some human warmth into their chilling reality. "Ethan," he replied, a flicker of recognition passing between them that sparked a connection amidst the chaos. They were both fleeing, two souls caught in the same storm, unaware of how intertwined their paths were about to become, but a loud thud on the door jolted them from their moment of respite. The sound echoed through the room as heavy voices faded closer, angry and demanding. Sarah pressed her back against the wall, her breath quickening. Are they coming for us?" Panic pulsed through her as she clutched the edges of her shirt. Ethan's gaze sharpened, his brow furrowing with determination. "I won't let them get to you. I promise." His eyes locked onto hers, fierce yet soft, and in that moment, she saw something familiar, something that made her heart ache for Jake. Could it be that her past was entwined with this man she barely knew? But before she could question it further, they heard a loud crash as the door rattled on its hinges, and voices now boomed with aggression. "We know you're in there. Open up." Every instinct within her screamed to run, yet the reality of the shadows closing in felt suffocating. "We have to find another way out," Ethan said, his voice low and urgent. "Stick close to me." The cries outside grew louder, the threat palpable as they shifted into action. "Over here," he whispered, motioning towards a narrow opening at the far end of the room, obscured by dusty crates and old machinery. "A way out?" she questioned, drawing in a shaky breath as hope mixed with trepidation. "Just trust me," he replied with a certainty that cradled both their fears. As Sarah followed Ethan's lead, she couldn't shake the thought from her mind: what truths awaited them if they escaped? Was this a journey to find something lost, or to uncover dark secrets better left hidden? With each step, they moved closer to answers, but the weight of danger lingered, looming larger with every moment they took. The chase wasn't over yet, and they were hurtling Toward revelations that could change everything. What would they uncover before this night ended? As they squeezed through the closing passage, she felt that something monumental was about to break loose. The narrow passageway twisted in on itself, dim and cramped. The faint glow from the overhead light flickered less frequently, casting shadows that danced menacingly on the walls. Sarah's heart raced as they moved deeper into the darkness. Ethan was close, his shoulder brushing against hers, their breaths mingling in the stale air. "Can you see anything?" she whispered, anxiety coiling tighter in her chest. All around her, the metallic tang of fear mixed with the scent of rust and dust, each inhalation a reminder of how fragile life was in this moment. "Not yet," he replied, his voice steady but low. It was the kind of calm that could only come from someone used to being on the brink of chaos. They inched further, and with every step, the sharp thuds behind them grew closer, like an ominous drumbeat urging them forward. The shouts that had been muffled grew into a chaotic clamor, voices rising above one another in frantic desperation. "They can't find us here," Ethan said, but doubt crept into Sarah's mind. A chill ran down her spine, her thoughts spiraling back to Jake and the safety they had taken for granted. If only she could reach him, pull him away from the shadows that had engulfed their life. But that was a haunting reality now, a pain she had learned to live with in the unforgiving aftermath. "Do you really think we can get out of this?" she asked, the tremor in her voice betraying her fear. "We have to," Ethan urged, and suddenly, he stopped. "Wait." He bent down, peering into a small access point a few feet ahead, the ragged edges barely illuminated by the flickering lights. "This might lead to another corridor." Sarah's heart quickened at the prospect. "Is it safe?" Ethan hesitated, yes but no flickering in his eyes. Then he nodded, resolve hardening his features. "It's our best shot. Stay close." They crawled through the tight space, the walls scrapping against Sarah's shoulders, a rush of adrenaline flooding her senses. As they emerged into a larger room, her lungs filled with the sharp scent of oil and smoke. Outside, the voices had grown louder, chaotic and demanding. "Search everything," one yelled. "They must be around here." Ethan grabbed her hand, a lifeline amidst the uncertainty. "We need to keep moving. There has to be a way out." They navigated through the dim light, shadows stretching unnaturally in the corners of the room. Boxes and crates cluttered the space, remnants of lives lived elsewhere, piled as high as Sarah's fears. With every creak and bump, she wondered if they would be discovered, if this was the moment the world pressed in on them, forcing her to confront what she feared the most. "Over there." Ethan pointed toward a rusted vent in the far corner, wisps of cool air drifting out like a siren's song. "Do you think it leads outside?" she asked, the hope welling in her chest. "Only one way to find out." As they approached, the shouts outside morphed into a dissonant symphony of frustration. Their time was running short. Without hesitation, Ethan started to pry the vent cover open, his muscles tensing as he struggled against rust and time. Sarah felt the panic quickening in her heart. They were so close, yet the walls felt like they were closing in, choking her breath. "I can help," she said, kneeling beside him, her fingers reaching for the edges. Together they shoved, and finally, with a loud metallic clank, the cover lifted free. Ethan glanced at her, eyes shining with determination. "After you." She hesitated, the world outside their small hideaway looming with danger, but the only way out was to keep moving forward. Swallowing her fear, she crawled into the tight space, the thought of hope mingling with despair as they progressed into the unknown. "What if we find out something we weren't ready for?" she whispered into the darkness, barely able to hear her own words. "Then we face it together," Ethan said firmly, his hand finding hers again as they pressed deeper into the vent. In that moment, Sarah's heart filled with a strange resolve. Perhaps together, they could conquer not just the danger outside, but the ghosts that haunted them both. As they crawled closer to freedom, one burning question rested on her mind: what awaited them on the other side? With that thought echoing in her mind, they inched toward their uncertain fate, where truths were buried deep and daylight may hold both salvation and heartache. The metal vent opened into an expansive, dimly lit warehouse, shadows flickering in the corners like old memories. As Sarah and Ethan crawled out, the cool air kissed her skin, a refreshing change from the stifling darkness they had just escaped. She felt her pulse slow, the weight of anxiety lifting slightly as they realized they had moved beyond immediate danger. Ethan turned, scanning the room. "We need to find a way out. Fast." A sense of urgency filled his voice, but amidst the chaos, a glimmer of determination lit his eyes. Sarah followed him toward a door at the far end, but with each step, her mind felt heavy with questions, ghosts of her past clinging to her. "Ethan," she started, her voice higher than usual, "what did Jake get involved in? What were those men after?" He paused, looking back at her, the weight of the unknown reflected in his steady gaze. "Those men, they're part of something criminal. Jake got caught up in activities he thought he could handle, but..." He faltered, biting his lip as if the words were too bitter to swallow. "He was trying to protect you. I think he was going to leave town, to get you out before things escalated." Fear and anger bubbled up within her. "He should have told me. I would have stood by him, we could have faced it together." Her voice cracked as she recalled her husband's laughter, silenced too soon by secrets that festered in the dark. "I know you would but Jake was scared. He thought he could keep you safe if you didn't know." Ethan trailed off, guilt shadowing his features. The door creaked as they approached, and her heart raced. "We don't have time for this." Sarah gripped the handle, turning it slowly to prevent any noise that could alert those outside. "We're not going to just piece together memories. We need to confront this." Pushing the door open, they were met with the stark light of a hallway, illuminating the path ahead. As they stepped out, a shouting match erupted in the distance. The hunters were closing in, and the air wore a tense weight. "Go," Ethan urged, taking her hand once more as they rushed down the corridor. Each footfall echoed, a rhythmic reminder of the urgency that propelled them forward. With every breath, clarity sharpened in her mind. She wasn't just escaping. She was claiming back her story, peeling away layers of deception to reveal the radiant truth of who Jake truly was, a man wrapped in complexity, love, and a fierce desire to protect his family. "Sarah!" Ethan interrupted her thoughts, pulling her to a sudden halt as they reached a junction. "Which way?" Panic edged into his voice. "Left," she instructed, a familiar instinct guiding her. The ever-shifting sounds of footsteps were getting louder, and they both knew they were running out of time. They ducked into what appeared to be a storage room, cluttered with chaotic boxes and peeling paint. Ethan moved the stacks aside, searching for potential exits. As Sarah helped, an unsettling realization dawned on her. The voices outside familiar. She strained to hear, a chill racing down her spine. They were looking for them, and one voice pierced through the cacophony of harsh commands. Mark's voice. "Sarah! If you can hear me, please respond." Mark called out. "I'm here to help." Ethan looked at her wide-eyed. "This is our chance." "Mark!" she shouted, relief flooding her veins as she fought to keep the fear in check. "We're in here." A moment later, the door swung open, revealing Mark's worried face. "Thank God," he breathed, but the relief was short-lived. He spotted the urgency in their eyes. "We have to move now." With one furtive glance towards the hallway, he stepped back into the storage area and ushered them forward. "Where's Jake?" Sarah demanded, desperation tugging at her heart. "Tell me everything you know." Mark's expression hardened, a mix of relief and deep regret. "He tried to protect you both. I didn't realize how far it had gone until it was too late. They were after him, and now they'll be after you, too." "Jake wasn't a monster," she urged, her heart racing with the fury of truth. "He loved us." "I know," Mark replied. Quietly. "But love isn't enough, or it wasn't for him." With a deep breath, Sarah took one more step toward the truth. He left us clues, letters that explained everything. I can't let his memory be twisted. Ethan placed a hand on her arm. We need to focus now. Let us get out of here, and we can piece it all together later. In unison, they filed out of the storage room, leaving doubt and confusion behind. As they navigated the grimy corridors, adrenaline and unity ignited a fire within Sarah. This was her story, her legacy, and no shadows could erase it. Bursting through another doorway, the sunlight poured in, stark and illuminating. Outside, they saw a vehicle parked at the end of the lot, its back doors swung wide open, an escape waiting to happen. The trio rushed towards it, adrenaline thrumming in their veins. Mark dove into the driver's seat while Ethan and Sarah slid into the back. With a roar, the engine fired up, and they sped away from the darkness of the rail yard into the brightness of a new day. As the wind rushed through her hair, Sarah felt Jake's memory rise in her heart. No more secrets. No more lies. For the first time since his passing, she felt hope. Together, they would uncover the truth, not just about Jake but about the life they would rebuild. Life would be hard, but it would be filled with honesty, purpose, and love, the true legacy Jake intended to leave behind. Hold on, Mark said, his expression resolute. This is just the beginning. And as they sped forward, Sarah knew one undeniable truth: together, they could face anything. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that transform lives and reveal truths you never knew you wanted to hear. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these powerful narratives alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this journey, because we want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to support our channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions to keep the stories flowing.